It's a pleasure to be here, and I hope we'll be able to have an interactive and learning session.
Thank you, Mr. Oscar. We are happy to have you with us today. Uh, Madam Catherine, I think you would also want to hear your voice even before we begin this engagement. Karibu sana.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Catherine Muiruri from eTIMS Operations Office, and we are here to just build on your knowledge concerning eTIMS. Karibuni sana.
Thank you, our subject matter experts from the team's operations office, or rather unit. I think Mr. Kevin Oscar will be taking us through the presentation. So I would like to advise just a few house rules, ladies and gentlemen. Let's put in our questions on the chat tab. If we have any queries that will come around, please just put them in. We will try answer them even as we are going on with this discussion. Allow me to just share our presentation.
Okay, thank you. As we get ready for us to start, I believe we have so many questions about eTIMS. Just to give us an overview, right now we are still on onboarding and asking the esteemed taxpayers to continue onboarding so that they can be able to generate the electronic tax invoices. And as we'll see when we start, we have various solutions that will be able to assist you in that process. We have simplified solutions for non-VAT taxpayers who are in business. So that is USSD, e-citizen, since everyone or most people have an e-citizen account. We have the other conventional solutions that we started with, that is e-client, online, and the third-party integrators option. But we'll be able to get into it a bit more as we go. So even as we kick off this conversation, maybe I'll just start by going into what exactly is eTIMS. eTIMS is in full is electronic tax invoice management system, and it is an enhancement of the tax invoice management system, but not a replacement. There have been a lot of misconceptions that eTIMS has come to overrule or remove Teams. So that's not the case. I want to just say that both Teams and eTIMS are working at the same time. So eTIMS is there for the purposes of invoice generation, and it is available in software format. So that means that you can be able to have it installed on any of your devices, which means that that's why it's a software or an electronic system. So you can have it installed and use it on any of the devices that you have. That can either be your phone, your tablet, your desktop, your laptop, your PDA devices, all at your convenience. Why eTeams? The reason why we encourage people to so why eTeams? One is the fact that eTIMS is free, meaning that it is at no cost to you, the taxpayer, on getting it. So that means, in essence, is that when you visit any KRA office, or when you go through the process of self-registering, because you can go through the process of self-registering by yourself from home or for your office or from your office, you do not incur any cost from KRA when it comes to registering. It's a free process. We avail the software. The software is availed for free for you on the KRA website, and the whole process of training and using the system is also free. It simplifies tax return filing. It is also flexible, and the dynamic aspect of it being flexible is the fact that it can be used on any device and any web platform. It builds compliance, which means it enhances compliance across board for all taxpayers. And in a way, it also makes the market become a very elaborate and fair market for doing business. Lastly, it also offers a stock control uh, platform. And the stock control platform is the one where you can, for those taxpayers who are trading in goods, they can keep track of their stock through the stock management platform. So you can have access to see the purchases that you've made. You can have access to see the purchases that you've made. You can have access to see the amount of goods that you've sold, and even set a safety quantity level where you do want the system to alert you at the point where you need to restock your items. What are the benefits of using eTIMS? The very first one is that it helps it helps us to have faster processing of refunds. It's also, in the age of technology, it helps us to have an adoption of technology, and then which also in return makes the business administrative process become streamlined. It offers visibility of transactions. Offers visibility of transactions, in that now, which then that works hand in hand with the processing of refunds and the populated returns. So when you generate your invoices, you'll find that your invoices will have populated on the KRA server and also on your returns once it comes to the time for filing. It helps also improve customer and supplier relationship, because there'd be that easy visibility. If your supplier and you're the customer both have eTIMS, they'll make a sale, and it will be easy enough for you to add that as a purchase on your end with the system, given that both of them also use eTIMS. And then it also helps to minimize electronic tax invoice disputes. While we are at, who exactly should adopt eTIMS? And I think I've seen a question regarding that, about the obligation of turnover tax and 5 million. The law gives us the stipulation of everyone who transacts in business should be able to generate an electronic tax invoice. In that regard, everyone who transacts in business means whether you are in rentals, whether you have a salon, you have a hardware shop, you have an online business, as long as you are transacting in business, and that is without the obligation part. Well, now that's disregarding the aspect of, I have this threshold of 5 million, I have turnover tax, I have monthly rental income. As long as it is business and it's something that is bringing you income, the law guides us that everyone should be able to onboard eTIMS. So yes, so everyone who is in that bracket needs to onboard eTIMS. So which options do you have when it comes to eTIMS? I'll start with the last three, because those were the ones that we started with the conventional solutions. We have eTIMS Client, which is suitable for taxpayers who are both trading in goods and services. Goods meaning something that is tangible. When you go to a shop and you can buy something and go with it home as a physical object, and both services. eTIMS online portal is for those who are trading in services only or in the service sector. Then there's system to system integration, which is for those who are the taxpayers who already have billing systems. The taxpayers who already have billing systems and would want to integrate or merge their billing systems with our KRA eTIMS software for invoicing, such that when they generate an invoice, it will come out stamped with the KRA QR code and the KRA information, and it will just also automatically reflect to our server without them having to do away with their billing system. Then we have the eTIMS simplified solutions. So the eTIMS simplified solutions here are one, eTIMS Lite, or the eCitizen platform, or eTIMS Lite USSD. The eTIMS eCitizen platform can be accessed through the URL https ecitizen.kra.go.ke. When you go to that website, you just have to, if you already have an eCitizen account, you just have to sign in. You just have to sign in, and then you'll be able to generate your invoice. However, if you do not have an eCitizen account, it's a very simple process where you will register with your ID number and then verify your details. You'll also get an OTP on your phone, and you'll be able to generate an invoice as well. The other simplified solution for USSD is accessible through *222#, and that process can be done by dialing *222#. Then you select option 5. Now it's important to mention with this one, for a first time person who is registering or using the USSD option, for first time person who's registering using the USSD option, you'll be able to register using your ID number and then verify with your year of birth as well. So that's again through selecting option 5 for KRA tax payment, and then for registration, and then go back to dial *222#, select option 5 for KRA tax payment, and then go to sales invoice and select option 2. Like I had said earlier, eTIMS client is available for taxpayers who deal in both goods and services. With that, you'll find that the software can be installed on any of the devices that are on your screen. So you can have it installed on your laptop, on your tablet, on your phone, on your desktop, or on a PDA. It's important to mention that for all these devices, it is only for Windows and Android devices that this software can be installed on. If you are on the Apple or iOS platform, that availability hasn't been availed to those users yet, but we're still in the progress of creating a software that will be accessible through the iOS and Apple platforms soon, and then we'll be able to advise. So to be able to access eTIMS online portal, you can go to if you go to your browser and then you search eTIMS, you'll find the first page that will bring you eTIMS taxpayer portal. That's where you'll go and click on that site. It should bring you to the sign up page. On the sign up page is where you'll put in the PIN of your company, and then you'll click verify. Once you're there, it's important to mention that you need to verify that the phone number which is listed is the phone number that is currently in use for that business, because an OTP is going to be sent so that you can be able to key in the create your password and verify that it is you who is registering that account. Once you do that, you will sign in after you've created your password, and then you will go to service request, and you'll go to service request, and you will be able to uh, make a request for the solution that you are using. For the solution that you're using, you'll be able to make a request for the solution that you're using, and is what you need is to be able is to upload your ID or the ID of the owner of the business or the director. That ID should be scanned in PDF format, both front and back, and also a signed eTIMS commitment form. The commitment form, and we'll put a link to where you can get the commitment form in the chat box, can be found on the KRA website under publications. So it's important to mention, even as I talk about how to register for eTIMS, I had mentioned earlier that both TIMS and eTIMS, TIMS meaning the ones who have ETR machines, and eTIMS are working hand in hand. So if you have TIMS and you had gotten your device by 30th November of 2022, you are compliant. Unless now you want to move for other reasons, we deal on those reasons on a case-by-case basis. But as long as you have TIMS, you're compliant. So you don't need to platform on eTIMS. And also, when I mentioned about integration, I mentioned that those who have billing systems already in existence, so the likes of QuickBooks, Xero, Zoho, all those, you have the option of integrating with eTIMS through now either your own integrator or the third-party integrators who we have published on the website. For this and more information, you can go to our website, www.kra.go.ke, and you'll be able to get the more information as to who is supposed to be using eTIMS, the processes, and where to get the links to install what eTIMS solution for whatever device you have. With that in mind, there was a public notice that was published regarding the status of onboarding and the solutions that are there. So it's what we have gone through. That is eTIMS Lite. What I've talked about, the both solutions, the USSD option and eCitizen, eClient software, online portal, and system-to-system integration. In that regard, we have a few exemptions that have been given to us through the. Sorry, I think then there was also the public notice for onboarding of non-VAT registered taxpayers. For VAT registered taxpayers on the 31st of March 2024. We have what the guidelines that we have right now is encourage all taxpayers to continue onboarding, and so that they can be able to be compliant. With that regard, we also have exemptions that have been given to us through the Tax Procedures Act. And the first one is when it comes to emoluments. Emoluments that are subject to payee. So what that means is things like salaries and wages. Those ones are exempt. I think to give more light to this, because we've had a lot of questions regarding this matter, When it comes to wages, we are talking about things like when you have um, watu wa mjengo, for example, there's a way that they usually paid, whether it's a week or after 2 weeks or whichever structure that different construction sites usually have. There's usually that space where you can get to record the names and everything, and then you pay. So those are wages. So those ones are exempt. If you are an employee of an organization and you're on that organization's payroll, you do not need to generate an eTIMS receipt that you can get paid at the end of the month. However, if you are a consultant with an organization, because you're not on the payroll, you have to invoice that you can pay. So that, because there's the way you account for the work that you've done so that you can get paid. You have to generate an eTIMS. There's the importation of goods and services. Those ones are also exempt because the importation of goods is taken care of at the border through our customs department. There's airline passenger ticketing. By that I mean, if, for example, someone goes books a flight from here to Mombasa, that one is exempt. So you do not need to ask the airline to issue you an Teams seat. Is investment allowances and interest income for financial institutions. Those ones are also exempt. To that effect, you'll find the following contact information on your screens. We have added a few more numbers to be able to support the onboarding process in our office. So if you dial any one of those numbers, we'll leave that up for a while so that you can be able to get to it and get a response. But if you dial any one of those numbers, you'll be able to get a response and be able to be sorted out. Thank you so much. We'll just go to the questions. I believe I have answered a couple of questions as I was presenting as well. Let me see. So I'm seeing a couple of questions regarding the auto-populated return. Then seeing the question for you have mentioned that airline tickets are exempt, hence a passenger buying a ticket via travel agents will not be required to jet it. Correct me if I am wrong. Yes, this is from Continental Travel. The eTIMS receipt that you will generate, because I believe you get a commission for the tickets that you sell, right? So that is what you will generate an eTIMS receipt, so that that hotel or that airline now can be able to give you the commission of the tickets that you sold on their behalf.
Hi, my name is Catherine. My name is Catherine, and I'd like to Muirori, and I'd like to tackle some of the few questions that are on the chat box. So we have a question, especially on the non-VAT. They are asking where they fall. One thing that I'd like to explain concerning non-VAT, Of course, we have those businesses or people that are VAT registered, which is okay, but we have them that are non-VAT. What does it mean to be non-VAT? It's either probably you are or you normally do the return of TOT, that is turnover tax on your sales monthly. You can also be on monthly rental income, that is MRI, which is not vatable. You can be a company or a partnership that is not dealing with vatable goods. And for this reason, we categorize you under the bracket or umbrella of non-VAT. So that is what we mean. And for this case, the reason why we are asking you to onboard on eTIMS is because there was a regulation that was passed through the Finance Act last year that mentioned if come next year, because for some of the non-VAT, they have to do the annual filing and they need to claim for expenses. So in case you are not, let's say some of the expenses, all of the expenses that you have incurred, they have to be through eTIMS. So if you have any expenses that are incurred out of eTIMS, though you paid, you'll not be able to claim. That will cause you to have a bigger tax obligations. So tax obligations. So we are recommending that each and every person that you work with, for the sake of you claiming for that expense come next year, we are recommending that you should work with compliant businesses or recommend them to be compliant so that you're able to also be on board and also be able to claim for that. There is also a person that is asking, can people still on board on eTIMS? Yes, the field is still open for any business that is operating, whether VAT or not VAT registered. We are recommending kindly for now, continue onboarding on eTIMS. You can visit the nearest KRA office or also use our website, which is full of resources and information that will enable you to onboard on eTIMS. There is also a question that is reading, also the customers are not registered for VAT. I have a question in regards to business of selling electricity to its customers per day. We have 100 to 200 customers who buy tokens. How can we create invoice through eTIMS? For that question, I'll just get back to you after some time, or maybe after this session, then I'll be able to give you the correct answer. We have another question that goes as, kindly confirm if we will need to get eTIMS invoices from January 2024. What we recommend, even in accordance to the public notice that was issued on 27 December, is that you, even though you onboard eTIMS to say, let's say a date like today, what we recommend, every manual invoices that you had generated or you had indicated on your sales book that are not eTIMS generated, you are required to invoice them, all of them. And also, because for eTIMS you can never backdate, you'll just use the current date because that return is for come next year. So let's say, unlike VAT, which has an implication on the date that you invoice, for other tax head that is non-VAT doesn't have a date implication. Saying my company is TIMS compliant, is there need to join eTIMS as well? If you're TIMS compliant and your machine or gadget is working well, then I'd like to say that you're already compliant. You do not need to onboard for eTIMS, not unless you're encountering any challenges when working out with eTIMS.
Thank you, Catherine. Let me just step in and help you a bit. Someone has asked for consultancy. Sorry, the questions are coming in a bit too fast. I'm trying to get to read all of them. Someone busy consultancy and doing business on goods, which eTIMS platform is appropriate? That is both. If you are VAT registered, you would be able to get eClient. Actually, whichever one. You're both VAT registered or client, because it's for both goods and services. What happens to Bolt and Uber services? Allow me to get back to that one. Someone's asking, kindly clarify on payment of casuals who receive their wages on a weekly basis, on how we go about that. Those ones I mentioned that are exempt, they're exempt from generating eTIMS invoices. However, if this is someone who has a contract of a consultancy of any sort with you, then they should be able to generate an invoice. For those taxpayers who are on special table, the special table issues right now are being dealt with from your respective tax offices. So if your tax office is in, remember where you listed your PIN and where your tax office is. It's Samia, or if you're not in Nairobi, the tax offices in your region, the special table issues are being handled from the respective tax offices. So the account managers should be able to advise you on what to do. Okay, I'm still trying to get a hold of the questions. Someone asked, can we have the eTIMS program on 2 to 3 devices but the same company? The policy with the software is it's one PIN for one device. So if, and I'm assuming, Abby, you're talking about the software client, because you probably deal with goods and services. If one company is dealing with a specific, kind of trade, maybe they supply clothes, for instance, then they are the ones, that company will have its own device, another company will have a different device. However, if it's a branch that you're opening, you'll also still have a different device. I'm seeing someone has texted the in details of the company. Maybe I'll just ask for the specific issues that you'd like raised, you can just channel them to our email address, that is team support. I'll just type it down, team support at kra.go.ke, because of the aspect of data protection and those details to be public domain. So where you have specific challenges with your company or your PIN, or you need an approval, please, you can just follow through with that request to our email address, and then you'll be able to get a response. Someone had asked about the process of filing regards to the auto-populated return. Right now, we're still guiding that you can file manually, as our auto-populated return is still being one, and then so that it can function properly. So you can still file with the normal till we are also guided otherwise, and once everything has been sorted out on our technical end. Can one raise an eTIMS receipt or invoice in euro, British pounds, or dollars? You can convert the amount from a foreign currency, Kenya shillings, and then raise that receipt in that. And then you can include it under non-fiscal data information that it was this amount in dollars. Back to you, Catherine.
So we have a question here that is, how do we deal with the supplier supplying groceries and items them from different vendors? So I am not really clearly understanding the questions, but for those people that deal with groceries, what I'd like to mention, if they are dealing with companies or supermarkets that need to claim for inputs, yeah, if they are dealing with those companies, for example, I would give an instance where there is a vendor that sells groceries to Naivas, and as we all know that Naivas is a company. So for this issue, for them to be able to claim come next year for the expense that they have incurred while purchasing the groceries, then they need to get the eTIMS invoice from the Mama Mboga. And that is why we have come up with the simplified solutions, that is the USSD *222# and also the eCitizen platform. What I'd like to mention concerning the two simplified solution, that is the eCitizen and the USSD, is that for USSD, it's for those businesses or people that are not VAT registered and are doing businesses using their individual pins. For example, Mama Mboga, people that do repairs and maintenance at a small scale. And also we have eCitizen platform. If you need to access it, you can access it through ecitizen.kra.go.ke. And this enables you to invoice for both a company that is not VAT registered and also for an individual that is doing business. For example, those people that earn commission and are not VAT registered, for example, insurance people, then you'd be able to invoice through those platforms. Then there is also person that is asking, can a company have both TIMS and eTIMS? What I would like to recommend is that you have to be in one at a time, because for both you'll be if you have both and you're not transmitting on one, then it will be a challenge on your end, because you'll be asked, why are you not transmitting on this one? So it's good to just work with one. If one is working really well and you're not encountering challenges with it, just continue using it. Is bakery required to register for eTIMS? If yes, how are they supposed to file their VAT now that they have zero rated and claim their purchases? For once, I'd like to know if the bakery is VAT registered, then they are supposed to be on eTIMS. If they are still not VAT registered, they are supposed to join eTIMS under the non-VAT bracket. If they are supposed to file for VAT because they claim for purchases. Yes, for you to be able, if you're dealing with any maybe vendors that supply goods to you and they are VAT registered, you're required to claim on the purchases side. And one key thing is that you should always give out your PIN so that transaction is maybe located to you, because if you don't give out your PIN, then it will be really difficult even for the auto population for that purchase to be tied to you. And yes, you're supposed to file for VAT. If the sales are zero rated, it's okay, but you need to file for VAT, because in VAT we have several rates. We have the exempt, we have zero rated, the standard rate 16%. So yes, you're supposed to do that. We also have our landlords are supposed to claim for VAT. So I would like to maybe bring clarity on that questions. It still depends. There are landlords. One thing we have to know under renting premises, we have commercial property and residential property. So commercial property is the property that you use to rent to other businesses so that they can conduct their businesses in those premises. And for those such kind of renting, then you are supposed to charge VAT. So in this, you're supposed to join eTIMS and you're supposed to have VAT obligation that you charge your they are the ones that are renting the premises. And also for those that we have the monthly rental income that is not vatable but is under the non-VAT bracket. So in this case, you're supposed to join eTIMS and generate each and every invoice. You don't need to ask them for their pins, but you can always indicate the house numbers there and generate and be compliant, because in accordance to the Finance Act 2023, each and every person is supposed, whether you're in business, as we know, renting premises is a business, then you're supposed to onboard and generate your invoices on eTIMS. I hope that is clear, because I can see also there is a question on part of landlords. Please comment on whether residential should onboard. Yes, they should onboard on eTIMS in compliance to the Finance Act 2023, so that they are able to be on compliant. Changes from there's that just a response. Let me just check on a few questions that are being asked. I can see some of them have been responded on. But maybe what I'd like to mention for any transaction doing with Safari and Uber, for that we will address after this, maybe or the next session that we have, that we can come with clear answers. So what are the advantages of or importance of onboarding eTIMS? As my colleague Kevin had mentioned, that one of them we have adoption of technology. One of the things that we know even in the coming future, even for you to be able to have better sales, you have to be a person that is tech savvy or have your business online so that you're able to have access to a variety of market or diversity of market. So one of the things that it enables you is the even the reach of customers. There is also, we have the auto population, meaning anytime you generate your invoices, you don't need to constantly or manually fill the invoices on your return because you'll already find them there. So those are just mentioned two, but we'll share the presentation later so that you're able to have to be able to follow up. How do I deal with suppliers' invoices that are not on eTIMS? So if in case they are VAT, then they have to be on eTIMS. But in case it's an invoice that was generated manually for a person that is not VAT registered, they should join eTIMS and ensure that the invoice that they had given you that is not on eTIMS, they have generated it through eTIMS. So hi, Catherine, kindly explain more about the system-to-system integration. How can we get APIs to directly integrate with KRA instead of going through the approved third-party integrators? So for that, if I think this is a case of self-integration where you don't want to go through the third-party integrators, we have more information on how you can be a self-integrator. That is, enable your system, go through the approval process, be approved to integrate your systems with KRA without going through the third party. You have to have the IT capability because the process is in depth. So it requires you to be really knowledgeable concerning integration so that you're able to enable your company go through the integration. For consultancy as well, doing business on goods, which eTIMS platform is appropriate. So this is in a situation where a person or a business is dealing with both goods and services. So what I'd like to recommend, anything that is touching on goods, you have to download the software that was mentioned before. It can be either on your phone, tablet, and also we have the desktop. So you have to download the software. But if it services plainly, you can onboard on the web-based platform that is online portal that enables you to generate invoices. We have another question that's saying, what about a management company maintaining only one property for its unit owners and is owned by the same unit owners? It only receives monthly service charges. So that is not quite clear, but let me just go to another question. But what I'd like to just maybe mention, anyone that is doing business, whether one unit, as long as it is in the threshold of the amount that is required, then you are supposed to onboard on eTIMS. What will happen to business expenses like business permit, KENHA, token, or airtime services for mechanics who does not have KRA PIN and the only available people to solve mechanical issues for vehicles, which forms part of the construction business expense? What I'd like to recommend is that if it's a person that you're dealing with consistently, just advise them to get a PIN so that they are able to onboard. And we have simplified solutions, especially for the people in the informal sector, like the *222# that I've mentioned before, that will help you to onboard on eTIMS. So I can see this question still being asked again. We have, my company is TIMS compliant. Is there need to join eTIMS? So if it's TIMS compliant, then there's no need to join eTIMS as long as the machine is working well. I can see Benson who has mentioned the PIN. So let me just take it so that I'm able to contact you later and be able to resolve your issue. why do we still to file why do we still have to file monthly returns after doing the same on eTIMS? What I'd like to mention clearly is that eTIMS is not a filing platform, but it is an invoicing platform. And once you're on eTIMS, it enables you to, let's say you are on VAT, your invoices are automatically transmitted to on your return, so you won't need to manually fill in your data or invoice data. So what is required of you is that you're required to just go and confirm the data is correct, both on purchases and sales, and do the return and pay taxes due to you. For claiming income tax expense for a business, will it be a must for your expenses invoice bear the buyer's PIN like in VAT? Yes, for sure. To avoid businesses claiming invoices that do not belong to their business or just random invoices, then your PIN has to be captured at the point of sale so that the transaction is tied to you. We have a desktop that we wanted to install eTIMS software. Is it possible that you can install remotely from your end? Yes, you can use the helplines that have been provided to just install eTIMS from your end. Then you can also email us that on Teams support TIMSU. It's not double S, but one single S support at kra.go.ke. And also on a step-by-step guide, you can always check on our YouTube channel, that is KRA TV, or also KRA Home, that is our website, that will be able to guide you through to the point of invoice generation. We have hello. What about the sugarcane farmers that require eTIMS invoice? What about the sugarcane farmers that require eTIMS invoice? So they can join on the simplified solution that has been provided for you so that you're able to easily generate invoice. One thing that I'd like to mention for the simplified solution, they are self-installation. They do not require any approval. So they are easy to navigate. Once you access the resources that have been provided on our website, then it becomes really easy for you to navigate through the platform. When registering for eTIMS online portal, the commitment form is one, required to select devices they will be using and also serial. So what I'd like to mention, if you're a company that is in the service sector, just kindly note that on the place that you're saying that it's required for you to fill in the serial number and the laptop name, or that is model number, you can just write online. That will enable us to just know that you are applying for the online solution. You don't need to filling the serial number, you don't need to fill in the model name. Just write online and that will be satisfactory on our side so that we are able to help you. So thank you. I'll just take it back to Kevin so that he can proceed with the answering of the questions.
Actually, I just wanted to clarify with something. There's a question here that keeps on coming up with regards to paying, receiving an ETR or an eTIMS receipt when you want to get a business permit, you're paying for land rates, anything that involves government. I had mentioned for now, since we're still in the process of onboarding every other government agency, you can make the payments through the unified pay bill number, that's 22222, then have that message as a copy of the expense, because once you pay, it will bring like land rates for this county and this county. So that will be your evidence for that expense that was paid until we finalize on the process of having most, if not all, government agencies onboarded onto eTIMS. So that will cater for the evidence for your expense on your income tax returns for the year. Catherine? What's some expense that you maybe Chege, you can write to us and then we can pick it up and see how that one can be handled. Yes. So how will the landlord having commercial VAT return cause one on invoice and no purchases? What? Margaret, maybe could you make that question a bit clear? I don't think it's very clear.
So I can see Julia saying that commercial and residential property, that question has not been answered, but I had covered concerning the question. I've said that everyone is supposed to be on eTIMS, and for commercial property, because they should charge VAT, they should file monthly for that VAT that they collect, maybe do their purchases and declare. Concerning residential, still in compliance with the MRI, the Finance Act 2023, they are supposed to onboard and generate every invoice through eTIMS. So can we file for VAT manually this month? Yes, there's allowance for that. So you can file for VAT manually. What is the recourse for tax invoices? We couldn't claim last month because the vendor never took our PIN for the parts bought. So what you can do is that you can ask them to generate a credit note on that sale, then generate another original invoice so that they are able to capture your PIN. Is staff expenses like travel on duty per diem considered as emoluments? Is that question? Or how are we supposed to cover on eTIMS? So it has been mentioned in the exemptions part. So I believe you have your answer. How comes when using online registration, you put PIN, it's not showing my name? So we have instances where once you input your PIN, it's saying there's no taxpayer information. You are required to just email us and tell us concerning that issue. Then we are able to do something that is called data migration and enable you to be on board. How should a company that outsources human resource invoice the amount to the customer? What tax code should be used for reimbursement of salaries repaid by customer? So in the case that you outsource any type of human resource, that is like something like a contract, what you should do is that the company that you're working with should always invoice you through the eTIMS platform. If there is any withholding, then you should withhold for them to pay the rest of the amounts. What tax code should be used for reimbursement of salaries repaid by customer? So one thing we have mentioned concerning emoluments, that is that are subject to pay, they are exempted from eTIMS. We have downloaded the auto-populated return for March 2024, but it does not include the sales figure for the month. How do we go about it? Kindly write an email to us, because concerning the auto-populated, we help businesses on a case-by-case basis. So kindly write to us or visit the nearest KRA office and you'll be able to have or get assistance. Kindly advise on financial services charges, bank charges. How do we get eTIMS invoice? Banks onboarding on eTIMS. So we have mentioned the I have 1 month. So I have 1 month business dealing with motor vehicles parts. Customers are asking for VAT compliant receipt, yet I have not met VAT turnover threshold advice. This is from John. So John, I'd like to advise you concerning VAT and how you can get to work with a variety of businesses. So one of the things we have registration that is called threshold registration. This enables you to register for VAT obligation when you have met the threshold of 5 million. The other instances where you are working with those businesses that require you to charge them VAT, for example, government entities. Let's say in a case where you have not met the threshold, but umepata, you've met people that want to do business with you, though you have not met the threshold. What you require is to come to our offices, register for VAT obligations so that you're able to work with a variety of business. So that is called voluntary registration, so that you're able to have more businesses to work with.
So let me just go to YouTube and look at the questions that we have there. We have Charles Orina who asks, are the border riders who offer transport services to the company required to generate ETR invoices when they request for payments? Charles, yes, we have had a couple of border riders who have come to sign up for eTIMS. The quickest option that we usually give them is the USSD option for them to be able to sign up, because it's something you need to sign up on the go, or the eCitizen option. Zainab Khan also asks, good morning, I am trying to pass an invoice under my company using eTIMS web portal, but it keeps showing me unknown error. Please ask the administrator, kindly guide on this, thank you. Zainab, that could be a challenge because probably when you're registering the item that you're trying to invoice for, under safety quantity, you did not fill in that field. So if you can go back and select the item that you had registered and then put a value of 1 or 0, should be good to go. Jeremy Kahuriri asks, why are Kahuriri discussing the errors and challenge you are facing when raising invoices when using USSD? Jeremy, maybe you can let us know on which error exactly you're facing. You can call us or write to us the screenshot of the error that you're facing, and then we'll be able to get to assist you, or visit us at our office at Jiko Towers, or whichever one that is closest to you. Grace Baraza asks, how long does it take for eTIMS registration process to be over? Because some registration process were initiated last week and we have not gotten any approval messages. Thank you, Grace. Please write to us with the specific registration that you had signed up for. Include the PIN and the name of the company, then that should be worked on. Sierra also asks, what about if employees are given transport allowance of that 500 per month? How will the company be able to claim on the expenses? Matatos do not issue eTIMS receipt. The transport allowance, I believe, is really catered for even in the salary that you're giving, right? Sierra, I can confirm that. What is the implications? What's this question? Evans, for border rider raising eTIMS. The only implication is that you should get payment faster, but there is really no other implication besides the fact that you'll just be compliant and be able to generate an eTIMS invoice. Those are the questions that I've seen on the YouTube channel. Back to let me go back to the other platform. On the question from Margaret, is the threshold of 5 million based on monthly or yearly? think we had clarified this before, but let me just do it again. What the law guides us on is on anyone who is in business to be able to onboard onto eTIMS. There is no mention of a threshold cutoff for people who have this threshold to be able to onboard. However, we await further guidelines from the electronic tax invoice regulations that should come out 2024 to give us better guidance on that. But at the moment, with what we have, everyone who is involved in business is supposed to transact and generate an electronic tax invoice. Can you please enlighten on eTIMS residential rents? Mickey, the same way you would get an invoice for paying rent for the month of March, the same way you will generate an invoice for your tenants now using eTIMS for the same month, because it is still income. I believe my colleague had talked about Faricom. Is there manual for income tax, eTIMS, seat generation? Maybe Stephen, you can make that clear. How do we Daniel, how do we claim matatu expenses, border services, food, I don't know what food, whatever that is, small tailors, kiosk. Please, once again, remember, this is for people who are engaged in business. I would ask you, Daniel, the same question. When you take a matatu to go to work, is that an expense you want to claim? Because that is, it's not furthering a business. That's you getting yourself to work. So the claiming of expenses here is for those who are in business. And if that's the case, then for the border riders, we've already mentioned that we are onboarding them onto eTIMS. So if you have a supplier who's a border rider, then should get them to be able to onboard on eTIMS so that they can be able to be compliant and issue with an invoice so that you can have support for your expenses. Lastly, for bank charges, important to mention that certain services are the ones that are exempt, but not whole institutions. Bank charges, those ones are also exempt. I'll hand over back to Martha.
Thank you, Kevin, and Madam Catherine. What I'd like to perhaps emphasize, even as we get to close this session, is sometimes we may not be able to answer all the questions, because when some of them are actually, some people are also perhaps asking the same questions that have already been answered. But kindly, if you're able to check even on the chat box, there's a team that was also responding on the chat box. We are live on KRA TV. Please, if you have a minute or two, even after this engagement, you can be able to go back on the KRA website and just go to KRA TV. I think we have already shared the live. Please just check on the chat box and just have just be able to just listen in again and be able to pick in the places that you have perhaps not understood. Remember also the links have been shared. Thank you, our able team that is working behind the scenes. We are also requested that sometimes if you have an issue and you want to be facilitated one-on-one, please visit our offices. We are willing to support At this point in time, because of the challenges of onboarding, perhaps we are requesting that you can take a minute or two, just visit any tax station that is near you, and you'll be facilitated. All the offices are open and we are ready to receive you and to serve you. For those ones who are not able to get facilitation online. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to bring this meeting to a close. We will still continue having more engagements even within the month, even as we get to demystify and just get to understand, ensure each and every one of us is facilitated. So in case if you have not gotten all your resolve today, I kindly request that you're able, please take some time, just visit the offices, all carry offices. We have a team that is on ground to facilitate. So thank you. Thank you, our subject matter experts from the team's operations unit. Thank you, our dear taxpayers. Allow me to bring this meeting to a close, and I will just say a small prayer to close the session. Okay, about the feedback forms in terms of ways we can improve our eTIMS solutions for eTIMS. I think we can be able to even give this on the eTIMS support email. Perhaps Mr. Brian, just type it out on the chat box, the email that we can give in our feedback so that we are able to listen in. There's a team support@kra.go.ke. Thank you, Kevin, for the response on the same. So let's pray. Thank you, Lord, for this amazing day you've given us. Thank you for the session we have just had. We pray that you'll enable us to be able to tackle these matters to do with eTIMS in a great way. Where we have questions that are still perhaps not resolved, that you'll enable us to be able to be served even at the desks, in the carry office desks, and you'll enable us to have a seamless onboarding to eTIMS. So we thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing us to have this engagement. This I pray, trusting and believing in Jesus' name. Amen. So thank you for the feedback. Thank you for the messages that are coming in. Kindly, I still will emphasize, if you have not managed to get a resolve, our offices are all open and we are going to facilitate you. So have a good and a pleasant afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, from us, Tax Education Office. Goodbye.